When you think about the most dramatic national transformations of the last century, few countries come to mind quite like South Korea. Today, we're going to unpack that incredible story.
Okay, so picture this, a country completely ravaged by war. The average person earning just over $100 a year. That was South Korea. Now, fast forward. Think about a global leader in tech, in culture, an economy that's right up there with the world's giants. That's the same South Korea today. It's just wild.
So you have to ask, right? What was the secret? How does a nation on its knees pull off such a rapid, frankly, unbelievable turnaround? Well, that is the big question we're digging into here.
And to really get how big of a deal this is, you've got to see where it all started. We're not just talking about a challenge. We're talking about a nation in absolute ruins, facing what looked like an impossible climb back from the edge.
All right, so our story really kicks off right at the birth of the modern Korean state, a nation that was, from the very beginning, divided by global politics.
So it's 1945. After 35 long years of Japanese rule, you can imagine Koreans were desperate for independence. But the Cold War had other ideas. The Soviet Union and the United States, they stepped in. And just like that, they split the peninsula right down the 38th parallel. And that one act, it set the stage for decades of conflict.
And yeah, this division was not peaceful at all. On June 25th, 1950, North Korean forces just stormed across that line, kicking off a brutal 3-year war. This became a major flashpoint in the Cold War, pulling in global powers, and, well, it left millions dead and the entire peninsula in ashes.
But out of all that devastation, something incredible happened. One of the most remarkable economic stories of our time rose from the ashes, what they call the miracle on the Han River. This is the story of how South Korea literally rebuilt itself from the ground up. So what was the engine behind this miracle? Well, it was something called the Chaebol. Think of these as massive, family-run conglomerates. The government literally handpicked them and just poured resources into them. Their mission was simple: build up the nation's industries and go out and conquer the global export market. It was a huge gamble, a real high-risk, high-reward strategy that, yes, created incredible wealth, but it also put a ton of power into the hands of just a few families.
And you definitely know their names. We're talking Samsung, Hyundai, LG, SK Group. I mean, these are the companies that became the pillars of this new economy. And it's crazy to think they started out in things like construction and chemicals and then grew into the absolute tech and car giants that we all know today.
And the strategy was, well, brutally effective. The focus was simple: exports, exports, exports. You combine a low-cost workforce with massive government backing for these chaebols, and boom, you've created an economic juggernaut. It pulled millions of people out of poverty and completely reshaped the country in just one generation. Pretty amazing.
But, and this is a really important but, this economic miracle, it had a dark side. For decades, all of this growth was happening under the iron fist of an authoritarian military government.
Yeah, the road to freedom was long and it was tough. A military coup in 1961 kicked off decades of autocratic rule. And when people protested for democracy, like in the Gwangju uprising, they were often brutally suppressed. But the people just would not give up. Their desire for change was just too strong, and it all came to a head in 1987 with the transition to democracy. So when South Korea hosted the 1988 Seoul Olympics, it was way more than just games. It was basically them telling the whole world, hey, look at us, a new democratic South Korea is here.
And you know what came with that political freedom? A cultural explosion. This new democratic era is what really gave birth to the Hallyu, or the Korean wave, a phenomenon that was about to take the entire world by storm. So with these new freedoms, there was just this unleashing of creativity. And the government, they saw this and made a really smart pivot. They realized that soft power, culture, could be just as valuable in export as their cars and electronics.
And this wasn't an accident. It was a very deliberate, multi-step plan. Step 1. Promote things like K-pop and K-dramas to build a global fan base. Step 2. That popularity drives sales of those cultural products. Step 3. That in turn boosts sales of everything else, cosmetics, food, you name it. And the final step? It enhances the entire Made in Korea brand across the globe. Pretty genius, right? So, when you put all of this together, the economic, the political, the cultural, what's the end result of this incredible journey? Let's take a look at the big picture.
The transformation is, well, it's just astounding. Think about it. In the 1950s, South Korea needed international aid just to survive. By 2009, it had completely flipped the script and become a donor nation, actually giving aid to other countries.
And I want to be clear here, this isn't just impressive, it's totally unprecedented. South Korea is the only nation since World War II to make that full journey from being an aid recipient to an aid donor. The only one.
So, from ashes to a global powerhouse, South Korea's rise is this incredible story of smart planning, a hard-fought battle for democracy, and some serious cultural savvy. But it also leaves us with some big questions, doesn't it? What are the real lessons we can take from this unique model? And maybe more importantly, what challenges does it face as it moves into the future?